Welcome to the Health Revolution, and this week we have a very, very special guest. But before I introduce him, I'd like to mention to the people who've written to us regarding the last show last week, where we had Patrick McGeehan on talking about the wonders of sulphur. Many people have rung the Ancient Purity Office to order the sulphur. Unfortunately, it's been held up in the post from the US, but we hope in the next few days it will come in, and we're very, very excited as the results are absolutely superb. The next thing I'd like to mention is that Ancient Purity's new website should hopefully be up and running next week, and we will have the most important of the pure essential oils on the site at that point also. Couple of bits of news. Those of you who've watched the King's Speech may have heard that David Seidler, the chap who wrote it, got cancer in his 70s, but he actually, it seems, recovered in a very short time, just a couple of weeks, using purely visualization. He purely visualized his cancer fading away. He used a number of techniques, and the person who I believe introduced him to these techniques did a test with chambermaids in hotels. He suggested to the he divided the chambermaids into two groups and said to half of them, your work of being a chambermaid will be considered as exercise and good for your health. And the other half of the chambermaids weren't told anything at all. And after just 2 weeks, all the important health measurements for the chambermaids in the group that had been told that work was good exercise and good for them, their health came down, their blood pressure normalized, all their levels normalized. So the power of thought is worth thinking about. Now, I'd like to introduce Walter Pierpaoli, who is originally from Italy, now I believe living in Switzerland. Very remarkable man. He's worked for 35 years in the field primarily of hormones, has written a book called The Melatonin Miracle, and is now working on a substance called TRH. And I think you'll find that today's episode is going to be particularly interesting because melatonin, as many of you may know, really is the master control mechanism of the body. So I'd like to welcome Walter Pierpaoli. Hello, Walter.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So perhaps we could get straight into the subject, first of all, of melatonin. We have about an hour or so to talk. Perhaps you could tell us some of the wonderful things that melatonin can do for us.
Well, I think if you read the American bestseller, The Melatonin Miracle, you already can guess what it means, melatonin. Melatonin by itself means nothing except that it must be produced by the young pineal gland in the night, about 1 to 2, 3 a.m. in order, it produces the night peak. The peak of melatonin is expressing your juvenility, your capacity to control your immunity, to fight cancer, to fight viral diseases, immunity. I spent many years in the field of the hormonal control of immunity. And if the pineal gland you are sick, you are a cardiovascular disease, you have cancer, the night peak of melatonin will disappear or will be declined. And when you age, the night peak of melatonin declines and then it's totally extinguished. So it means you are ready to die. So the pineal gland is a clock scanning the time of your life. When you grow, when you are fertile, you procreate, and then you start aging. Of course, we should not confuse aging with diseases. Diseases are hiding and accelerating the course of aging. If you prevent diseases, aging is totally different. To go back to melatonin, melatonin is expressing the juvenility of the clock in your pineal gland. As I have shown, the pineal gland is truly the controller of your lifespan, of your juvenility, and also is force you to age. My experiment showing that the pineal gland is the cock for everything, also for aging, has been shown by the pineal cross transplantation in mice between young and old to young. The most astonishing paper I published is perhaps a paper published in Journal of Anti-Aging Medicine, where the editor was astounded. He was very surprised to see, and he had the courage to publish it. In few words, the pineal gland, when it ages, forces you to age, and then is also a death clock. So precisely the course of your aging is recorded in the pineal gland. Then melatonin is produced by the pineal gland with the enzymatic process during the night and makes a peak. The peak of melatonin during the night is expressing your age, is expressing your capacity to control immunity, is expressing your real control of immunity of everything. So if your declines during aging, you are going to die, because it is also death clock. The purpose of melatonin given orally, when you are more or less young, aging, or whatever, is to protect the pineal gland from aging. Because when the pineal gland is producing melatonin as a night peak, it is a process controlling with two enzymatic processes, acetyltransferase and HIOMT, which are the two basic enzymatic processes. This is a tiring work for the pineal gland to produce melatonin. Just for you to understand, if you protect the pineal gland by preventing the pineal gland to produce melatonin, you will put to rest your biological clock. And the biological clock will continue to maintain its juvenility, because it doesn't have to produce melatonin. So the purpose of night administration of melatonin to prevent aging of your clock, aging of the pineal gland. Consequently, you will fight diseases, you will fight cancer, you will maintain your health condition, no doubt about it. It was so clear that when the Melatonin Miracle was published in 1995 as Simon & Schuster in millions of copies, and then it was translated in 15 languages. There is one now updated version which is A Key of Life, which you can buy. Practically, there was great turmoil all over the world, and in my view, this has generated a lot of opposition to the notion that we have a clock in the brain which can be maintained, can be let us say, aging can be postponed, which is amply demonstrated. You must know that in spite of all the stupid, silly stories about melatonin, there are, I would say, many hundreds of very serious scientific publications concerning the melatonin activity in different clinical contexts, and also in many directions. And unfortunately, there is still no understanding about the real task of melatonin, which is not to have a direct effect in the body as an antioxidant, a lot of silly ideas, but it is simply that if you take melatonin when you go to bed, you produce a night peak of melatonin, and the pineal gland will not produce melatonin and will go to rest. So the purpose of night melatonin is to put to rest your pineal gland, which is a controller of all the neuroendocrine immune system, because the pineal gland is connected with the hypothalamus, connected with the hypophysis, the master gland. And it is a kind of talk. They talk to each other and they maintain the synchronicity. Because as I have demonstrated, and I could talk for hours about it in connection with cardiovascular diseases, atherosclerosis, neurodegenerative disease, and finally cancer, maintenance of the hormonal intersynchronization is basic for prevention of aging and diseases and diseases of aging, of course. This is also shown. I have spent 35 years, 40 years in basic research in the laboratory, all scientifically documented, and then I have as a doctor, a medical doctor, I again started in the late after the publication of the book. People were asking me to help, 96, 97, 98, started to take care of patients. And have amply experience now with patients in all pathologies. So the key issue in this story is to understand that the pineal gland is a clock for aging, but also for non-aging. Because if you protect the pineal gland, aging is something totally different, becomes something very strange, not easy to understand. Because, first of all, the pineal gland, by maintaining its synchronicity of the hormonal system, will prevent diseases, because the immune system, which is controlled by it's totally controlled by hormones. If you control the immune system, it's practically unthinkable that you can develop tumors, like you can develop any kind of diseases, because this intersynchronization under control of the pineal gland, which we can protect by taking in the evening melatonin, producing a night peak. And I repeat here, that if the melatonin you swallow in the evening does not produce a night peak, and it is due not to melatonin but to the excipients which allowed the release of melatonin at the time when the pineal gland produces a night peak, at the time when your pineal gland is healthy and functioning in your young age. Therefore, the key of the story, after all, is to maintain the night peak of melatonin. And therefore, what we say, you swallow melatonin. Melatonin will not produce anything. On the contrary, if melatonin does not produce the night peak, it will derange your hormonal system. And consequently, also will not certainly prevent diseases or aging. So you see, it is all based on the very clear-cut concept, which, by the way, was published in 1994 by the Proceedings National Academy of Science in the United States, a very important scientific paper to document what I am saying. I mean, pineal is a key for understanding aging. And the melatonin is very important for producing the night peak. If it doesn't produce a night peak, it cannot work. If you anticipate or you posticipate, delay the night peak, obviously you derange the immune system. It's a question of synchronicity, of intersynchronicity of the hormone. You understand?
Well, I do. And so just to be clear, this this knowledge about melatonin is a huge threat to the hormone-producing manufacturers who are making an awful lot of money with hormone replacement therapies.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's a threat to the entire medical profession, really.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
how they seem to have responded is by producing melatonin, which is being sold in the shops and on the internet, which actually is totally ineffectual. Would that be right?
Yes, it's deranging your hormonal intersynchronization, producing the opposite effect. I see decelerating your aging because it goes against any logic. If you don't maintain the night peak of melatonin, which is explained by the fact that when you're young and so to stay healthy, you have a night peak of melatonin. If you have a problem, psychological problem, stress, poisoning, all kind of environmental pollution, you are sick and your night peak will disappear. As expression, the fact that the pineal gland loses its capacity to control neuroendocrine intersynchronization, consequently the immune system, and they say equals to precocious aging. You have to protect yourself by protecting your pineal gland. You can do it by taking melatonin, which allows the pineal gland to go to rest and not to work, and therefore maintain its juvenility. Consequently, you can prevent all kinds of problems, diseases, cancer including, as I can amply demonstrate because I have a great experience in oncology, to the extent this year I will propose to the world the fact that cancer can be easily prevented. Cancer can be easily prevented, and I know how and why and how. So you see, it's all linked to the fact that we have a clock for aging or not aging, for maintaining our resistance to all diseases, cancer including, especially to prevent all kinds of diseases by maintaining the integrity of our biological clock in the pineal gland, which is scanning the time for our life.
And what happens if somebody who already has cancer starts to take melatonin? What happens then?
I think it can help, but will not solve it, because of course it depends if somebody having already cancer didn't undergo chemotherapy. If he didn't undergo chemotherapy, I think better to forget about it. But if he is asking for help having developed cancer, we can proceed with a procedure because cancer is produced by hormonal derangements, very clear, which is linked to your pituitary gland, a derangement of these 5 hormones, produce inevitably cancer. This can be easily detected with very large anticipation. When you are in front of a patient already having developed cancer, if he does not go to chemotherapy, you can try to correct the basic hormonal derangement which produce cancer, and you can do it very easily by acting at the level of the pituitary gland, of the thyroid, especially, I would say, the pituitary gland and the thyroid. They are the key glands controlling the immune system. Also, onset of tumor, because we have cancer cells everywhere in the body, in the bone marrow. This is well known. These are, as Sir Bernard McFarland said, this terminology, they are under immunological surveillance system. The immunological surveillance system is the system allowing not that the cell will be generated, but they will not replicate. The raw replication of cancer cell, which we have in the body everywhere, always, is under control of the immune system. If the immune system is deranged because hormonal desynchronization, cancer. And you can see very, very easily how cancer can be anticipated, because there are families developing cancer. I know many of them. they develop cancer, all of them, because they have this typical derangement of the pituitary system, allowing a derangement of the hormonal control of immunity, which inevitably will generate cancer. So you can prevent it by simple tests. Unfortunately, this is not known. I hope I will be able to bring this dramatic news to the world audience.
And so clearly the pituitary and the thyroid play a big part. I mean, as you know, there's a thyroid epidemic going on. How much of that epidemic do you think is caused by lack of melatonin for people because they're not sleeping correctly?
No, I think the thyroid deficiency drama is affecting the whole world. I don't know really the origin of it. Maybe it was already there. I think you can radionuclide, atomic bombs, water pollution, what we eat, what we inhale. I don't know really. The fact that in 15 years work with my patients in Italy as a doctor, just for my natural scientific curiosity, I didn't see anybody not having thyroid problem. And also I discovered another kind of hypothyroidism, which has nothing to do with the thyroid, but with the pituitary gland, which it doesn't succeed in controlling the thyroid. It's all linked. I think in case of cancer, you can try to reverse the condition which led to the genesis of cancer. This you have to try to do. It is possible. But unfortunately, most cancer patients are so afraid that they run to the oncologist and they are making chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a kind of drama. I think is an epochal tragedy, which sooner or later will be understood. But I can do nothing against this system.
And with people with thyroid problems, do you recommend they take a natural thyroid extract?
I think if you have, it's available, like in the United States. I am hypothyroid myself for 20 years. I have thyroiditis. I know everything about thyroid for personal reasons. I must say that if from thyroid gland, for pigs, thyroid gland, porcine, the thyroid, like in the United States, you can buy and you can take. It is good because it's contains T1, T2, T3, T4 with 1, 2, 3, 4 iodine atoms. It's okay. However, I think it's not necessary because synthetic thyroid hormone is also good, and I give it to all my patients. And is composed by the high percentage of T3 and T4. I must say that, unfortunately, in Europe, I don't know why, there's some mystery to me that, in fact, hypothyroid people, person are given T4. And this is a tragedy to me, not to be understood. Practically, we are in front of a demential system, claiming that if you take T4, your body will provide T3. But without knowing that after a while the liver will be unable to produce that enzyme, which is removing one atom of iodine from the T4 and making it to T3. Because the real active thyroid hormone is not T4, it's 3-iodothyronine with a T3 with 3 atoms. And therefore, I prescribe to all my patients, 100% of them, a composition of T3, T4, which is produced in Switzerland and in Italy, and it works perfectly. I take it myself. And in order to know the dosage, this is another tragedy in the tragedy. In order to know how much you have to take, you have just to measure the temperature, the morning temperature. Broda Barnes, in a wonderful book of more than 100 years ago, American wonderful doctor in the United States, at the time when there were no laboratory measurement, what did he? He explained very precisely how can you precisely measure your hypothyroidism by measuring the body temperature. In fact, I have promoted the sale of thermometers because it's easy in the morning between 7 and 8 to measure your body temperature. This gives you the precise, very precise degree of your hypothyroidism. This makes things very simple. Also because, tragedy, the laboratory indication, which are produced by the World Health Organization in Geneva, telling you how the limits, laboratory limit between TSH, T3, T4 are totally wrong. And the doctor believe it. So it's really a primitive word, no doubt about it.
And just to be clear for our viewers, what is normal body temperature? Because I've heard a very, very well-known, well-respected health specialist here in England, Barbara Wren, who originally trained as a nurse, and she says that when she trained as a nurse, what was considered the standard body temperature was actually 1 degree higher than is taught at medical school now. So what temperature have you been taught is normal?
Well, now about 15 years I was considering this parameter, and the right body temperature I consider perfect. First of all, we have a drop in temperature during the night. It's following, day-night cyclicity, the temperature. We have a kind of hibernation in the night. And in order to be clear, I suggest to measure body temperature precisely under the tongue, because there is a blood flowing under the tongue. It is very precise, not under axilla, between 7 and 8 in the morning. Between 7 and 8 in the morning, the body temperature in centigrades must be, it's not should be, must be 36.2, 36.3, 36.4. So between 36.2 and 4, that is a precise temperature human being must have between 7 and 8 in the morning. This makes any other laboratory test totally unnecessary. And I have this experience for 15 years. I am hypothyroid, and when I measure my body temperature is at the level I know that is the right dosage of the T3, T4. And also I give some Lugol, some iodine, mineral iodine, simply because in case your poor liver has a capacity to produce the enzyme which is removing from T4 one atom of iodine and then leading to T3, 3-iodothyronine, which is a gasoline of the body, is 3-iodothyronine. Okay, I give this opportunity also because we must be aware there is a lack of iodine in the world, even the population on the sea, unless maybe in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, where there is more of this iodine in the water, in the sea, etc. But for example, in the Mediterranean, there is no real iodine available. Therefore, I suggest 2 drops of mineral iodine in the morning to all my patients. They take, and they take myself in order to provide to the body the iodine which is necessary for the synthesis of T3 and T4. If there is any possibility, the body will provide to it. Yes, it's just supporting all what is needed to the body to have enough or thyroid hormones. Without all thyroid functioning, we are lost. There is nothing to do with producing all kinds of diseases. The thyroid, lack of hypothyroidism to world tragedy, I think, mainly responsible for most diseases, cancer included.
Yes, well, I agree, and I've seen iodine have remarkable effects. I believe that Lugol's iodine is the iodine of choice, the things I've noticed are people's brain function improving. Suddenly they remember why they walked into a room, and they can remember where they put their car keys and that sort of thing. Faster thinking, like lifting the brain fog seems to be a common thing that people tell me. Perhaps I could bring you back again to melatonin and the longevity side of it. Perhaps you could tell briefly about the mouse experiments, and because I know that you've done a lot of work taking young pineal glands and putting them into old mice and totally changing everything. I was wondering if, first of all, you could clarify how similar are mice to humans? You know, one hears about trials in mice all the time. How similar are they, particularly in regard to the pineal gland?
They are identical. Aside the fact that the mice live 2.5 years and human live so long. But, there are books describing the pathologies of mice. The mice develop precise all diseases of men, the same. They are a model, the wonderful model, necessary model for understanding the origin of diseases, everything. So inbred mice allow transplantation between them because they are genetically pure and they don't reject. This is allowed in immunology, all these progresses in immunology, because inbred mice, we don't have inbred in men except monozygous twins, the only cases. Otherwise, you cannot transplant because we are different genetically. Having this model and developing the mice all kinds of diseases, which is illustrated in the comparative pathology of animals. You can see that mice develop all diseases of men, degenerative disease, cancer, and so on. So they are a wonderful model. Only the timing is different, but this is understandable because the mice have a highly accelerated metabolic rate, and therefore everything is accelerated. I have worked for 40 years with mice. They are my friends. I didn't harass or persecute or produce any pain because I'm very conscious about it and the criticism, but the mice are the only model possible for studying this kind of diseases. And just to tell you one example, in 1974, I published in the journal National Cancer Institute, which is one of the most important. I published a paper because I had a model of mice developing Hodgkin-like disease. A kind of Hodgkin disease is a typical diseases affecting humans, and they are genetically so disposed to. All of them develop Hodgkin-like disease of the mice. I used just to tell you what I am now exposing my new idea of preventing cancer, which is rather easy. Is I have shown in these mice that the cause of their disease, Hodgkin-like disease of the mouth, you know what it is? Is a pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is producing high excess of gonadotropins. Gonadotropins controlling, the gonads of human and female. And obviously, and you know what? These mice have the pituitary gland, the cells in the pituitary gland, in the hypophysis producing gonadotropins show a total full. They are totally high secreting gonadotropins. So the cause of Hodgkin is excess of gonadotropins from the pineal, from the pituitary gland. This is a classic example I published in 1974. Can you imagine? And so slowly I developed the idea that cancer is produced by the hormonal derangement. And then I came to the conclusion that it can be easily prevented. In fact, I know very well the markers of anticipating cancer in humans, which is very clear, repetitive, simple. And the key for prevention is to rearrange, resynchronize neuroendocrine system, so the hormonal system, and you can do it acting what? On the pineal gland, which is a clock of the body, regulating other hormones and interconnected with the neuroendocrine immunosystem. Is an orchestra which plays all together. If one is deranged, one is playing too high or too low, and that is a disaster. A hormonal desynchronization is a key for, or resynchronization is a key for preventing disease and postponing aging. Aging can be postponed to the point when the clock is signaling the time for you to die, which I have amply demonstrated in a paper where I've transplanted the pineal gland from very old mice into young mice with their own young pineal gland. They die earlier. Because when the program has expired, which is 2 years in the mice and 120 in humans, nothing can stop it, because the pineal gland is also the clock, and this is demonstrated. The purpose is to postpone aging to the point when the clock will make you die. But, I mean, without diseases, because if you have diseases, you are going to anticipate your own aging. So the problem is, let us prevent disease, let us prevent cancer, and let us see what happens. You will die at 120 peacefully in your bed without diseases. That is the purpose.
Well, that sounds what we all want, doesn't it? Or at least 120. I know some people are aiming for 150, but maybe we should compromise at 130 or something like that. So, what happened when you put the young pineal gland into the older mice?
Well, this is in the Melatonin Miracle book. You can read it. The story is fascinating. And that is generated an anti-melatonin movement in the world, you can imagine, especially in Europe. Europe is an enemy of melatonin. If not for the United States, there would be no melatonin in the world. Now, it is easy. I started this experiment when, for many reasons, which is very difficult to explain, it was a long parkour to come to this kind of experiment. I simply inbred mice allow you to transplant whatever you want without being rejected. Therefore, I took different strains in order to have a variety of conditions from of mice, and I took mice of 3 months, young mice, and took the pineal gland, removed the pineal gland, and transplanted the pineal gland into the thymus. This was the first experiment of all the mice. Not very old, but I mean 18 months. And then was waiting. And then the dramatic effect, I mean, the pineal gland of a young mouse transplanted into the thymus. Why into the thymus? Because it's easier to transplant, and also because the thymus is the producer of the T cells, the cells which allow you to fight infectious diseases, viral diseases, and also cancer. So it was an ideal place to transplant the pineal gland from a young mouse into an aging mouse. And of course, the results were dramatic, and it is illustrated in the book, in the pictures, and many publications on serious journals. The other dramatic experiment, which also can be seen in the Melatonin Miracle, and of course there was a continuation, which led me now to take care of patients. For many years, it was the cross-transplantation experiment. The cross-transplantation experiment is very difficult, very delicate, but we succeeded in transplanting in situ the pineal gland taken from a young mouse into an old mouse, let us say 4 months into an 18 months mouse. and from the pineal gland from the old aging mouse was transplanted in situ in the position where we had removed the pineal gland from the young mouse. This was Crohn's transplantation experiment. The results were, of course, very dramatic. And you can see the picture after 1 year from the transplantation of the too young to old, old to young, you couldn't distinguish two mice. The grandfather and the nephew, they were the same age, fantastic. This experiment is being repeated. And of course, many transplantation, pineal transplantation were done, and all are illustrated in paper published. Apparently, this is a kind of stubborn blindness not to want to take consideration of this dramatic evidence. And aging is a program in the brain, and it can be understood, it can be delayed, it can be manipulated. So we can really intervene in the most intelligent way, not to live forever, but to prolong our life in good condition as long as the program allows. Let us say the program which is in our pineal gland, the pineal gland of the mouse, or the cat, or the dog. Every mammalian species has its own program in their brain, in the pineal gland. When I say the pineal gland, I don't mean only the pineal gland, but the connection of the pineal gland with the hypophysis, with the hypothalamus, with the center controlling hormonal intersynchronization. It is a kind of orchestra, so let us say if the pituitary gland is an orchestra, the pineal gland is an orchestra director, modulating the hormone to talk to each other in a symphony, harmonic. Because in my view, hormonal desynchronization is basic for genesis of diseases and acceleration of aging, and we can largely prevent now it. Also, unfortunately, not many know or want to know.
And you did another very interesting experiment where you exposed mice to constant light for 4 generations. Tell us what happened to those healthy mice 4 generations down the line. What did you see?
Very good question. This was at the very beginning when I start guessing that light plays a very important role in our life, illumination, the sun, and night, day, night, and so on. And I was convinced that we are generated, and in our genetics, this cyclicity, day-night cyclicity, periodicity, cyclicity is fundamental for maintaining health. But it is so imprinted in our genome that it is difficult to eradicate this cyclicity. And therefore, it was maybe in 90, not even 80, I don't remember, many years ago, I had the idea of trying to see the effect of permanent light on the condition of the mice, And it was published in a book by Academic Press, 1980, I think. Yes, 1980. Simply, the most important characteristic of our brain is to follow hormonal cyclicity, and therefore day-night cyclicity, which is regulating hormonal cyclicity. Not to talk about the moon, which is also a very fascinating aspect, the lunar cyclicity, which is producing is the determinant for the menstrual cycle of women, yes, which is a lunar cycle. So we put mice in a cage under the light and the lamp in the laboratory just to observe them, and male and female. and together they were mating and they were growing and they gave birth and so on. And the first generation light, so to say, I couldn't see anything, but I thought, well, the light rhythmicity, circadian rhythmicity, is so imprinted in our genome because we were generated, we were born for thousands of years under this cyclicity, that it is difficult to eradicate from your genome this capacity to control the immune system. Therefore, the first generation saw nothing. We took the first generation and then second generation again under light, permanent light. Really such a simple, fundamental experiment. At the second generation, nothing happened. They were newborn, they were male and female again. Third generation under light. They were growing, mating, reproducing, always under light. Third generation, nothing. So as we are rather stubborn, and I had the feeling that anyhow something must happen sooner or later, we kept the mice and we were rewarded because at the fourth generation, disaster. Because probably after so many generation light, under constant light, day and night, always, like you would be in a room totally, permanently illuminated, and then for all your life. And can you imagine? And the fourth generation, disaster. Because what happened? Practically, we had succeeded in eliminating circadian cyclicity in the brain of these animals. And what meant it? It meant that we were disrupting the hormonal control because, of course, there was a total derangement, maddening of the hormonal system because the mice were not able to control their periodicity, the hormonal periodicity. There was some disruption of the synchronicity between hormones, keeping the mice. And then what happened? They didn't grow, they were ranting, they were wasting, they looked miserable. And the control, the thymus became atrophic, the immune system was ruined, antibody response. And so it was a total disaster. Practically showed that abrogation of circadian cyclicity generated this the disaster because the mice couldn't grow, couldn't produce antibody, they were ranting, wasting, so didn't grow. And of course, they were not fertile. So the simple experiment was dramatically clear and generated then the story of the pineal gland, of transplantation, all this, and then the story of melatonin. Melatonin served only giving the mice melatonin in the night, they prolonging their life, what was an illustrated experiment in the melatonin miracle. Was generated by this observation of keeping mice under permanent light, where I was thinking, well, what happens if you keep a mice under permanent light? It prevents the functioning of the pineal gland, altering the function of the pineal gland under permanent light. And what? It would stop the production of melatonin. And that was a consequence, was experiment with melatonin, because otherwise I would never think of pineal gland and melatonin. This was a really dramatic evidence that we have a clock and that we have to maintain the cyclicity of the clock, which is basic for health and life.
So it would be true to say then that if one's grandfather, for instance, or grandparents had slept in a room that had light, and our parents had slept in a room that had light, and we slept in a room that had light, that our children could well turn out like those poor mice.
Well, not really so, but similarly. In my view, to keep one of the disaster of our time, beside the noise, pollution, whatever, and drugs, is lightning, illumination. I think it's crazy to keep permanent light everywhere, to keep light during the night, especially for children, these clocks, electric clock and so on. All these devices. But especially illumination is very negative for children to be all the time in front of the computer or machine, all kind of machine, and especially in the room with strong illumination, especially in the night. So I think light, permanent lightning and illumination, excessive illumination is one of the causes of that hormonal derangement in the pineal gland, which is probably responsible for alteration of immunity and onset of tumors. Onset of tumors, no doubt about it. So I think it's a disaster, but we cannot change it.
Well, there are a couple of things, of course, we can do. I've just downloaded for my computer a program called F.Lux, F.Lux, and it's free. And what it does is it changes the blue light on your computer, because computers are full of blue light. So in the evenings, I turn the lights down in the room as low as I can work with, and the F.Lux program, as dusk comes, it asks you what your time zone is. As dusk comes, it changes the light of your computer, taking the blue out and putting a bit more red in. And I've noticed, just in the few days I've had it, I'm feeling so much more relaxed when I'm using the computer at night. A really palpable difference, and F.Lux is free, which I always rather like. So,
yes, I think a lot can be done easily, intelligently, of course, yes. I know that red light, for example, doesn't hamper the functionality of the pineal gland. Taking blood in the night from mice in the animal rooms, you had to use a red light. So a dim red light is not harming, for example. I think we could do a lot, yes, so simply procedure, but I don't see very much. When I see the illuminated globe, the terrestrial globe, I'm frightened. And all this useless abuse of light for what? For whom? I don't know.
So I'd like to ask you a few questions about melatonin again. You have created your own formula of melatonin that includes zinc and selenium, which you feel are essential. Many of the viewers who have been watching the health revolution here are already taking Ancient Purity, which is my company, makes a multi-mineral which has selenium and zinc in it. Now,
yes.
If they're taking those, would taking your melatonin mean that they're getting too much selenium and zinc?
I don't think so. I think, on the contrary, that the longer you live, the more zinc you lose, and you don't get it from the food through the gut. We have done experiments with melatonin. Melatonin in all the mice, it is published paper, very important paper. I don't remember the name of the journal, important journal, referred journal, of course. Shows that melatonin, astonishingly by itself, without zinc, produces an increase of zinc in the blood, which means that, but I interpret this as a fact that melatonin, by putting to rest the pineal gland, of course, creates a chain of positive reaction, a cascade of positive reaction, including that your gut will function better and will be able to keep the zinc from the food. I think, I don't believe that there would be an excess of zinc if you take multiminerals and then you add melatonin. Also because we have not to forget that it is a question of synchronizing the brain and synchronizing the function, but in the sense that the body will also be able to get rid of the excess of what we may eat, including zinc and selenium, because After all, we have excretory system in the gut and in the kidney. And this is also a regulatory system. Of course, I cannot swear about it, but I think that there is no danger in taking melatonin, zinc, selenium with a low quantity of zinc or rotate or other salts of zinc and selenium is a wonderful combination. You can imagine, I mean, the melatonin by itself is increasing the level of zinc during aging, which we have published, and then if you add zinc, you will enormously enhance the effect of melatonin in the immune system. Therefore, melatonin, zinc, selenium is really ideal, especially not because of melatonin, zinc, selenium, but because the excipients have been elaborated so to produce a night peak without night peak, mimicking the night peak and putting to rest the pineal gland. Melatonin doesn't produce any positive effect, believe me. And this can be easily demonstrated. So it should be elaborated, the formula, in a way that will produce a night peak between 1 and 3 in the a.m. in the night, at the time when the pineal gland of a young animal or man is producing the night peak of melatonin. Don't forget, melatonin production is enormous in the young age, and it drops dramatically at puberty, because when the pineal gland drops the production of melatonin, we have puberty, onset of puberty, the capacity to reproduce. Simply because until puberty, the very high level of melatonin blocks the gonadotropins, and therefore the onset of fertility is a physiological process, very clear, I would say.
And I'd like you to talk about the dose of melatonin and why it's so important to have the right type of melatonin. The first time I took melatonin, I was really, really disappointed because I took it at about midnight, went to bed 15 minutes later, and by 2 in the morning, I'd woken up, couldn't get back to sleep. I was tired, but I was awake, and this is because I believe the melatonin I took came on very, very quickly, and the peak was too rapid.
Yes, exactly. Anticipating the night peak means that you ruin your sleep and you ruin everything. Because, for example, this sublingual melatonin produced immediately taken in the blood, or the melatonin which delay melatonin is a criminal, because they just derange the neuroendocrine system. They don't help at all. If you don't mimic the night peak, melatonin will disrupt the hormonal cyclicity, will not maintain it. So, and also one important aspect of melatonin is that melatonin, when you have problems, especially, for example, thyroid problem, you are hypothyroid, you are dyssteroid, thyroid, and so melatonin, if you take melatonin is helping the conversion of T4 to T3. It has been shown. Therefore, it helps you to produce better thyroid hormone, the triiodothyronine. But if you have the range neuroendocrine immune system, melatonin will produce funny effect. I talk about my formula, because it will signal, show to your body that something is wrong with you, and will try desperately to readjust the system, but will not succeed, because there's a serious problem in your endocrine system, like hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, adrenal problem, pituitary problem, excess of prolactin, the most dangerous of all hormones, prolactin, TSH, which is when it's high, and unfortunately the doctor see the level which is accepted, which is completely wrong for the doctor. So because TRH, like TSH, thyrotropin stimulating hormone, like prolactin, is oncogenic, is cancerogenic, carcinogenic, because it's big polypeptide molecule like prolactin are carcinogenic. Therefore, for example, I keep TSH to 0. It is a long story, but now after 16 years with patients, I know perfectly what to do. It is hard to explain because it goes against present practice, what the doctors do.
So if people want to learn more, they can go onto your website, is that right, and get a lot of information there?
Unfortunately not, because my website is full of interesting reports and paper, but it is it has been a little abandoned, so it is not updated, and I'm sorry to say, but...
So buying the book is the answer, buying
the Melatonin Miracle, which is in Italy now, it is a key of life. You can buy, yes, they have it. They sell in melatonin also. I'm not promoting, but it is a very fundamental book. I have other books, but they are published in Italy. They are very interesting books, but unfortunately they have not been translated into English. And I have a most dramatic fourth book now being published, which I want to publish also in England, in English, which is the Happy Patient of Dr. Pierpaoli, which is a witness from my patients about my therapy, how to reverse their problems. But you know, I am not politically strong, and therefore I'm not economically strong. So I cannot. I'm not a great promoter of myself. I can only live in my parallel world, trying to help my family, the people, my patients, as much as I can, without any illusion that I can convey this great news to the world.
Well, and let's go into what this great news really means. Tell us what you've found with kidney regeneration in regards to melatonin.
No, kidney regeneration, of course. Melatonin is simply, you know, if you give melatonin to mice, obviously mice generally die of renal sclerosis, kidney sclerosis. They die generally, renal insufficiency. If you give melatonin, not only, diet melatonin in the drinking water, as I have described, obviously the kidney function is maintained largely, and also the testis function, the gonad testis function, or in the ovary function. It is an overall process of maintaining functionality. Of course, now, just to conclude, maybe you can read about TRH. TRH is some other wonder molecule. I want to write a book about it, which had been I found in 1989, and now after so many years of research and publication, I can say that this is a real molecule which will change everything. Thyrotropin releasing hormones is tiny tripeptide, which is contained in the most unsuspected position in the body, in the hypothalamus, in the pancreatic islets. Is a key molecule, it's a life-generating molecule, which we have discussed and published in the annals of the 5th Stromboli Conference on Aging and Cancer, and in current aging science, it is dramatically showing that this is an aging reversing molecule. It's a life-generating and aging reversing molecule. And of course, we are so advanced that the gap is becoming impossible to fill, and I don't know what to do. But on another side, if we can profit of it, we and a few around me, I am very happy about it. TRH is really like age-reversing molecule. I have shown in mice, for example, the maintenance of kidney function, as you had asked me about melatonin. TRH is reversing kidney dysfunction and sclerosis, and also repopulating the gonads. You can see the testes of mice after TRH treatment. They are fully exploding with spermatogonia and spermatozoa. So it's a rejuvenating molecule. Better to anticipate aging than to wait it. And to postpone is more difficult than to prevent, you understand. But still, to a very large extent, really, truly, you can reverse aging and modify pathologies also in very sick person. In particular, I am interested in atherosclerosis, which is the most dangerous disease affecting maybe 60% of the population at least, and killing the population inevitably with cardiovascular diseases. Arteriosclerosis, I say can be prevented and reversed, because hardening of arteria can be reversed. I have evidence in my patient for many years, and I understood from where it originates. It originates from where? Arteriosclerosis originates from the pituitary gland, which is inherited, obviously, and leads to those derangements affecting then the arteries. I mean, arteriosclerosis, ictus, and infarction, and all kinds of vascular diseases. So everything can be understood, can be interpreted, can be reversed, no doubt about it. I have plenty of experience. I see now I can do what we can do. Okay.
Well, one of the things that I was very interested to learn from your work is that women who have already begun the menopause have reversed it and gone back to having periods again. How commonly does that happen?
This is obvious. If you, I mean, in many mice or in humans, in women?
In people.
In women, we made an experiment many years ago by giving melatonin to women between 38 and 42, perimenopausal or menopausal women, and we saw clearly maintenance of hormonal cyclicity, of estrous cycle, of menstrual cycle in women, no doubt about it, because it goes together with the process of maintenance of pineal clock, of the pineal gland maintaining cyclicity. The most important, I would say, discovery in this experiment published in gerontology in 2000 or 2002, I don't remember, is that in fact it was found out that melatonin maintains the juvenility of the hypothalamic center secreting gonadotropins. In the sense that when a woman ages, what happens? That her gonads, ovaries become resistant to the stimulation of the gonadotropins, LH and FSH, which is a sign of perimenopause, menopause. The administration of melatonin is reversing this effect at the very hypothalamic level. Because when the women enter menopause, the gonadotropins are increasing in level, LH, FSH, trying to overcome the resistance of the ovaries to ovulation. And we observed a decrease in the level of gonadotropins, showing a real rejuvenation at the very basic level of regulation of the ovaries. In addition, the other observation is published, of course, was that what completely unexpected was that the women treated with melatonin, there was, of course, a placebo-controlled studies, women which took placebo, was that the women taking melatonin have shown an increase in level of thyroid hormone, but not of T4, but triiodothyronine. There was a recovery of the level of T3, triiodothyronine, showing effect on the thyroid. And that was, in my view, this is a key story, the recovery of the production of triiodothyronine, which is a defective, active thyroid hormone.
And,
yes.
Type 1 diabetes, have you seen melatonin have a positive effect with type 1 diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes, yes. No, I am working very intensively on diabetes in different directions, and I am very fond of diabetes. What I can say, I can stop the progression of senile diabetes, type 2 diabetes. That is no problem. It goes together with alteration of neuroendocrine regulation, and therefore it is enough to enhance thyroid function, which is generally present in type 2 diabetes as hypothyroidism. You can stop the progression of the glucose increase in the blood, glycemia. Type 1 diabetes, this is a long story, would need a long talk, right, because I am very fond of type 1 diabetes. I think I do believe to the real possibility to stop type 1 diabetes, to cure diabetes. How? By promoting the regeneration of the beta cells in the pancreas producing insulin. This is the only way. And other possibilities, but this is a long story. It's not possible to talk about it at length, because it's fascinating me, really, the possibility to cure diabetes type 1.
Yes, it's one of those great challenges, like reversing kidney disease. Last week we were talking with Patrick McGeehan about MSM, monosulfonomethane, and he was saying that he's seen dialysis reversed, and I've heard a number of cases now of dialysis being reversed. So there's very good news, even for the most impossible of cases, it seems. Now, we don't have too much time left, so I'd be very grateful if you could run through if there's anybody who shouldn't take melatonin. Is it safe for pregnant women? At what age in life should one start taking it? Should children ever take it, or should it just, at what age should it start? And then what dosages?
Listen, melatonin, okay, anybody can take melatonin. I suggest even to nervous children, for example, because if the children should have a high level of melatonin. Of course, until puberty, you have a huge amount of melatonin being produced by the pineal gland of children. But if there is a problem with illumination in the room, with noise, with different kind of problem, the poor children need melatonin, because it can only help them to maintain the balance. For sleep, for everything. So I don't see any age. Melatonin can be taken any age, at any age. If it is not necessary, it will not harm you. It will only protect you. Even pregnant women, why not? I don't see any harm to the fetus, to the embryo, if they take melatonin. On the contrary, it will protect. It is a protective molecule. How is it protecting? Again, I think it's protecting the pineal gland. That is the aim of melatonin. Therefore, if you take the pineal gland, if you don't need the protection, it will not harm anyhow the pineal gland. If you take a swallow grams of melatonin with a spoon, you will not die. It will be eliminated quickly through the kidney. So melatonin is different from what we think. The purpose of melatonin is protection of the pineal gland. The concentration, I think 1 milligram is enough. Of course, you can take 2 milligrams, 3 milligrams. It depends what you eat at the time you go to bed. But after all, I mean, if you are a reasonable person, between 10 and 12 p.m., you take melatonin. You can take 1, 2, 3, 1 milligram, but I want to stress again, it is not the quantity, it is the capacity of this pill to produce a night peak. If the melatonin is not producing a night peak, it will not work, it will not protect your pineal gland. On the contrary, if it is taken too early, or it is sublingual, or long release, slow release is dramatic because it will disrupt your night cyclicity. The only melatonin is a melatonin, good melatonin for the pineal that producing the night peak. And it doesn't depend on melatonin, but the formulation of the excipients which allow the release and the absorption of melatonin in your stomach, in your gut, between 1 and 2, and will reproduce the night peak. This is a secret of melatonin, to protect the pineal gland and prevent the pineal gland from aging, because protecting the pineal gland, you simply postpone aging.
And how long before going to bed should one take the melatonin?
Well, I personally, we take melatonin in my family. Let us say, I am an early, not an early bird. I go to bed rather early in the evening. Let us say about 10 o'clock. Well, one can be 11 o'clock. But you see, the mistake is to be alarmed if eventually 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, you have problem. You wake up in the night. You have to insist. You have to go on. Because melatonin is resetting your inner clock. And therefore, it takes some time before, if you are disrupted, nervous, your job, you have stressed, you are fighting, I don't know what, obviously, melatonin will reset your clock, but sometimes it needs time. So you don't have to discourage. You have to go on taking melatonin regularly between 10, 11 or so. And not to be worried about the fact you have to wait for your clock to be reset, to be really normalized by the fact that melatonin will protect your pineal gland, which is a clock. So you have to take melatonin non-stop always, and not worry about the early consequences, because the body, it's times. We are timed person. We need to reacquire your balance by resetting the clock, protecting the pineal gland. And especially if you have a deranged neuroendocrine immune system, it will take time for melatonin to help you to reacquire your natural cyclicity.
So are there other people in the world who are following on with your work? And is there still a lot of work being done on melatonin, or is everything that needs to be known already known?
Practically, I am not following anymore very much the literature, because I have my project with TRH and other issues concerning diabetes. I'm highly fascinated by the possibility to cure type 1 diabetes. I mean, already at the 5th Stromboli conference, there were many reports. There are now hundreds of papers describing the effect of melatonin. There is not one showing some negative effects. Frankly talking, I don't follow daily what is being published with melatonin. In my view, there is a distortion of the truth, because unfortunately, the significance of melatonin is quite a different story. I mean, I don't deny the fact that melatonin may have some the direct effect, certainly not antioxidant. The story that melatonin is an antioxidant is ridiculous. It may be also antioxidant, but it has nothing to do with the protection of the pineal gland. There are a lot of stories about melatonin, fairy tales. I really don't believe it. The main story is to protect the pineal gland. How long it will take, in the world to recognize the relevance of the story of my work on the pineal gland transplantation was the most dramatic, I don't know. Because, as always, I am saying to my family and to my friends, we are not living at the time of the global communication. We are living the time of global confusion. There is a deafening noise concerning everything, and the one who cries louder is heard, the other not heard. Is a word of confusion. And therefore, this also concerns the poor melatonin, which has been confused with a hormone, with antioxidant, with whatever, while the purpose of melatonin protects the pineal gland, our inner clock.
Well, we're running out of time for today's program, and what I'd very much like to do is to invite you back in a few weeks to talk about TRH, if that would be all right with you.
I'm delighted. This is the most fascinating story. I believe it.
Yes, and I want to do it justice.
It's the aging and reversing molecule.
I know, it's very, very exciting, and I very, very much look forward to talking to you again. And what we'll do is, over the next few days, we will put up details on the UK Column site and on the Ancient Purity website to explain exactly where to get Walter's extremely high quality product, because I think it is very, very important.
Yes, I don't know how is the situation here, but it seems to be a boycott, I don't know, some against the poor melatonin, even in the United Kingdom. I don't understand. I mean, you are in Europe. In Europe, I could understand because the large pharma companies are against melatonin violently, opposing it at the governmental level. The government is controlled by the pharma companies. Of course, they do whatever they want. I hope that in the United Kingdom there would be some enlightenment, some kind of understanding about this phenomenon, which is terrible. I hope that the UK people will be able to buy melatonin whenever they want without any prescription. You understand? Well, I fervently hope there will be more freedom in the UK, really. And
there will
be glad to help.
You know, there will be freedom if everybody makes a point of demanding it. And I hope that everybody watching this and any of the other episodes of the Health Revolution will please spread the word by putting it on Facebook, sending it individually to everybody, because some of this information really is very, very, very important, and I believe too important not to be spread around. So thank you so much, Walter, for spending time with us today, and thank you to the viewers for spending time watching. And we will look forward to speaking to you again very soon and seeing the viewers again on the next episode. So thank you so much indeed, Walter. And anything finally you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, I am very thankful for your understanding, for your sympathy, for your openness, because we are living in the world of darkness, of deafening noise, hiding the truth. That is a problem. So I'm very grateful to you if you can spread this scientific truth, this message, which is so important for everybody. That would be very rewarding for me, and I'm very thankful for your sympathy, for your capacity to help people to understand where the truth lies.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for watching. Cheerio. Bye-bye.